Hello, Rekt
Hello.
Radio, episode 106. Do I have an echo? Hopefully not. I don't know. Steph's eating again. Wow, there we go. I love that. We picked
I just
lunchtime.
literally have I've got a steak salad, a naked burrito steak salad.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's solid.
Why'd you eat your meals at 5 p.m.?
Honestly, I've just been like back to back all day, like proper balls to calls, and I had like an early brunch, so I didn't have a lunch, and I have to go to something this evening, so I'm eating now. Otherwise, I'll end up drinking and not eating anything. So,
all right, that's two in a row though. It's starting to become a pattern where you just disrespect the show and eat your meals on it. But I mean, we'll let it go. Anyway, what's up, guys? It looks like the market has bounced quite a bit since last week, so that's nice.
Yeah, pretty wild. Pretty wild.
Yeah, crazy everywhere.
Post all-time highs in Bitcoin. ETH is full sending. It feels like ETH
is ETH back? Is ETH fully back?
I told you on the show last week. I think that's the one. I think it's going to be it. I see you bull posting it all the way up as well. Like you're a big ETH guy.
I will forever be a big ETH guy. It's what got me excited about cryptocurrency in the first place many, many, many years ago. Even if the price doesn't follow, I think technology is extremely important.
Yeah, I think it's been a very hated coin for a long time. I always like those sort of coins though when they start rallying and they feel underowned, and like everyone just has like gut like, oh no, I've got to buy this. And as it goes higher, everyone feels like they have to buy it. And I feel like ETH is kind of one of those things now where like if it keeps on rallying, if it goes like 3K, the FOMO will really kick in. And
I think tons of people are offside.
Right. I love that sort of shit. Like that's when you want to buy it, right? Like when Fartcoin did that big move from like 300 million up to $1 billion, it felt like that. It feels a little bit like that with Rekt right now as well. And now I feel like it's happening with ETH on like a much bigger scale. Suddenly no one owns it.
Yeah, is that because they're front running some positive regulatory news, you think, or what? That's the chatter out there.
For ETH?
Trump cohort is so they were yapping about buying ETH back, I don't know, a couple months ago, but then it obviously crashed. But maybe that's what this is, the staking stuff.
Ooh, I don't know if staking is going to be the catalyst or not for the ETFs, but it is interesting. And I think it's also kind of interesting to note that on Friday, BlackRock met with the SEC to discuss specifically staking products wrapped inside ETPs and ETFs. So there's definitely something to that. The other theory that I really think is funny and also kind of interesting is that Abraxas Capital is just Alameda reborn, and they've been aggressively bidding ETH in the last 7 days.
Yeah, who are these guys?
Yeah,
well, there is some on-chain evidence that they're linked to Alameda.
Is that good or bad?
I'm honestly not sure. I think in the short term, maybe good for price. In the long term, that definitely remains to be seen.
But who's still left out of Alameda? Like, isn't everyone like in
Trabucco, man?
He just
disappeared. There's no way he's
chilling on his yacht. He's chilling on his yacht, swinging around crypto with his big balls. That's what's going on right now.
Feels that way, right? Abraxas. It does feel like Alameda. Like it's just like an annoying name.
Well, and there's a transfer a couple years ago showing a wallet from Alameda transferring funds through Stargate to a wallet linked to Abraxas.
Interesting. So it is linked to them in some way.
No, that's assuming. I'd actually check it myself, but I'm assuming that Axe didn't Photoshop that.
Yeah. So where do we think ETH BTC can go? Like, I think it probably keeps going higher here because that seems to be the momentum and the trend and all that kind of stuff. But what level do you think it can get to?
I think it feels like it can go up to like 0.4. I forget like if it's 0.04 or 0.4, but like I feel like it's got another leg in it. Another couple of legs. Like, if it goes to 3K, you can tell it'll overshoot versus what it's worth because people will be like, "Fuck! Like this is gonna go now. It's gonna go to all-time high." And it feels like one of those ones that will overshoot overshoot, and then everyone will get in at the highs, and then it'll dump.
Yeah, the question mark for me is the yearly open. I think that was close to 3,300. And if it can touch back there and breach it, then I think it's clear skies. But the 0.004 range is kind of the same thing that I see as more of a short-term ceiling.
Yeah, I would say that would be a definite point. 3,200, I would agree. So what's that? 20% from here. Interesting. Like ETH beta is doing okay, but it's really just like the L1 as well, right? Like it just feels like it's ETH that's the really strong one, and then I reckon once it breaks 3K, things start to go kind of nuts. But
that's what I was going to ask about. Like, what are the best ETH betas right now? I think last time it was pretty clear. It was like Pepe and Mog, like those two just moved like super in line. Well, just super levered to ETH. And I guess I think they're displaying, the meme coins at least are displaying signs of doing that again. What do you guys think? I guess SPX is another one. Rekt is definitely another one. Probably the most interesting one in my opinion. Not biased.
I don't think. I feel like Rekt is like not necessarily ETH beta though, right? Although it is like an ETH coin, I feel like it's more like a. I was talking about it today. It's internet capital markets. It's the original internet capital markets coin. All this stuff that they're talking about, right? Like you actually gave everyone equity. There's a flywheel. It is that. But yeah. Anyway, let's reset. Let's reset the room. Rekt Radio, IcoBeast has come on this week. You might know him. He's massive come up in the last year or so. I feel like I started seeing your content when it was around Blast. I think it was. You were like big on Blast.
Yeah,
and now you're like one of the top yappers, top of all these engagement lists. Like you're like one of the top minds on CT at the moment. You want to maybe give a bit of a background of yourself? How did you get into crypto? When did this all start?
Yes, I've been interested in crypto for a little bit less than a decade now.
Oh wow!
Formerly did some engineering and kind of caught wind of programmable money as part of that, and thought it was really interesting. I saw Bitcoin run very, very high around that time, and thought I missed it. So I was looking for a beta play, and Ethereum had ICO'd not too long beforehand. So that seemed like an interesting thing to look at. And I saw Vitalik give a speech at Wired in San Francisco, and that sold me on the concept. So that was kind of the intro, and just been around the tech for I guess 7-8 years since then. I find it just a really interesting primitive, and I think that you can do a lot of interesting things with programmable money. And so never really touched socials. I was a Reddit guy back in the ICO summer, spent time there, but never really migrated over to crypto Twitter, and did that, golly, I guess about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And for the first 5 or 6 months, mostly had zero presence, zero footprint. And then Blast came around. I thought it was pretty interesting. I still think that native liquid yield is really interesting. I don't love how they did the marketing for it, but that's kind of a bygone at this point. But decided I wanted to take the social side of things a little more seriously and try to build a brand. And was a little bit disenfranchised with how KOL marketing and the ethics or lack thereof from a lot of like more prominent voices in the space over the years had gotten. And I wanted to see if there was a way to get ahead and to build a name for yourself, like explicitly trying to do things the right way, disclose everything, like aggressively be ethical as a voice and help people make money, and see if you could still be profitable and monetize that way. And I felt like there was a desire for that in the market, and it seems like that's been the case.
Yeah, you write a lot of threads, you write a lot of like different sort of content, I think, than a lot of other CT, right? Like you're one of these like thought leader sort of guys, which is why people follow you. And you've been early to a lot of stuff. It felt like.
Well, I think that's part of the fun of having been a tech guy for so long is I actually have used the tech for a long, long time. And a lot of people that came into the crypto Twitter culture showed up around NFT land and never really got super deep in the weeds on how the tech works or who's developing what and how to use the various pieces of programmable money that we have. And I do think that's a differentiator and allows me to evaluate new topics or new things in a little bit different way than somebody who's here more on the culture side as opposed to the tech side.
Yeah, it's been a strong move. I think particularly recently after all like the rugs and stuff, people just kind of want to be early to things. Did you catch this internet capital market stuff, or have you thought that was a scam?
Well, I mean, it is a scam, but most meme coins are scams. But I was in, I actually think I was commenting back and forth with Andy about it on, I think, the 29th of April, back when Nikita first tweeted about the coin, the night that they changed the metadata from it being Pasternak to Launchcoin. So we added pretty heavily around that 8 to 10 mil range. And then it dipped hard back into the 2 or 3 mil range. And a number of my buddies ended up dumping at the bottom, which is kind of funny in retrospect. But yeah, so I was in that one, not giga early, but reasonably early, and it turned out to be a very solid play.
Wow! So you caught this as well.
It was fortunate. Easy Eats shared a thesis with me, and he's like, honestly, they're gonna Nikita's gonna tweet about the coin again, and it seems like there's legitimate marketers and builders that want to push this thing. And it seemed good enough to me to keep holding on to it.
Crazy.
People were speaking about that coin in a lot of my group chats.
Which one is this? I missed it.
It's Pasternak, and then it changed to like Launchcoin. Yeah. And I was like, it was one of those where it was like 2 or 3 mil when I saw it. And I was like, yeah, I should definitely buy that. And I just never did because I was just too busy. And then I was
Where's
like,
it at today? 200 mil, I thought yesterday, right?
It's almost 300 mil yesterday. Insane one.
It's like you could have like put on size in between 3 to 5 mil market cap, like easily.
But people are rich again.
People are rich again, yeah. And they're just fucking
Goon coin, right? Or whatever. There's been some crazy ones lately. What's the list of crazy ones lately? I don't even know.
Well, there was some kind of crazy PvP last night on Glonk. I'm not even sure what it's like. It looked like a normie version of Inverse Bra, and they launched it on like 3 or 4 different launchers, and the founders were all tweeting about the one on their own chain. I don't know how it ended up, but yeah, it seems like there's at least some motion in the trenches again.
Yeah, there definitely feels that way. I'm starting to see the group chats come alive again, and the boys are purchasing Rolexes and cars again. We love to see that. Maybe we'll start gambling again too.
Which group chats are you in, ICO? What are the good ones? Are there any like public ones that people can get involved in that you're in, or is it just the boys that you're close with?
Man, I don't actually spend a whole lot of time in group chats anymore these days. I just don't have time. I've got a lot of good friends across the space. I think Game Theory is a group that I kind of grew up with in crypto Twitter and the culture. We all got rugged by an NFT project a couple of years ago and kind of spawned a group out of that.
What was that?
It was Tribe. It was this guy.
Was that with like a 3?
No, so there's actually, that's the problem with crypto naming is they all use the same like 16 names. So there's like 5 rugs for every legitimate project named the same thing, but it was an NFT project that was like basically a front for a marketing agency that just marketed vapor. And we all like the guy that led it was probably the most charismatic speaker I've ever heard, at least in crypto. He like knew how to get people to listen to his spaces, to listen to his Discord chats, but then he never actually delivered any product. So that was not ideal, and he didn't pay a bunch of people that he owed money to, and eventually disappeared. But the other group that I spent time with on Discord is the Outsiders. I think it's OX0x Outsiders on Twitter. It's a group of guys that have just built their community over the years. I think a bunch of them were in some early NFT projects together. But their kind of tagline is "Make your own cabal," and that's what they've been trying to do is just build their own group of people that like-minded, want to make money, want to do things the right way. So I spent time with them, and then on Telegram, I hang out with guys like Lambo Land and Legendary and a couple others. It's not like a trench chat, but we share market theses a good bit just to kind of keep tabs on what everybody's looking at.
Yeah, I think group chats are starting to get a little bit warm again. That was going to be one of my questions. Like, do we think the trenches are back? Like, is this where people are putting their money back? It does.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think the daily runners have just been increasing in market cap. over time. Like it went from like, for a while, shit wouldn't send past like 5 mil. Then we had like 10 mil stuff, 15 mil stuff, 20 mil stuff, 30, 40 mil stuff. And house coin went to 100. And then you've had this coin, launch coin go to 200, 300. So it does feel like that ceiling is getting higher again. And I think with Bitcoin up and everything, like people obviously have more money to gamble. So I do think it's like it feels to me like early stages of another cycle in the trenches, but personally, I will not be participating because I seem to only lose money in the trenches. So. I just don't have time to like stay on top of it all, you know. Like I know that I get like third or fourth hand information. So unless you catch one of the ones that are like really going to send, it's pretty negative EV, I think, unless you're like properly grinding in it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's the best strategy then? Like, you really have to be in there on top of things. At IcoBeast, is that kind of what you're doing, or what's your strategy nowadays? Since it was dead for a while, now it's back. But like, how do you fire it back up?
I hadn't touched anything for months. I was actually talking with some of the guys yesterday. I was like, man, I haven't spent time in this channel since like early February. But kind of felt the animal spirits stirring, that things were moving again. I started monitoring chats a little bit more, looking at a couple of volume monitors. Honestly, I tend to agree that spending time in the trenches is pretty minus EV at this stage. I actually think it's much more valuable to build out a brand as opposed to making money by slinging jitters. I think that the long-term value proposition for creating a revenue or cash flow generating asset in your personal brand is much more sustainable and less dependent on luck, which ultimately, unless you've got superior information or superior tooling, winning in the trenches is a lot of luck. So I'm the opinion that helping people see opportunity is a great way to build a brand, and I think that pays dividends in the long run. So I'm still, as I have been for the last few months, more focused on kind of building out social presence as opposed to slamming winning trades and aggressively high frequency rotating.
Do you tend to find a lot of your winning trades that come from like airdrops first, like looking at new things that have got like some sort of rewards program or trying to incentivize people and then getting a little bit involved? Like that's something that I feel like if you're involved in Blast and a few things before that, and then virtuals, were they running some sort of airdrop?
No, there are actually no incentives on virtuals.
Interesting.
What I found interesting though for it was the entire timeline was focused on the AI trade on Solana. And I felt like that was pretty heavily run by a group of just very high level, superior information flow people. And I had zero edge there. Who knows who runs these shadow organizations. But I felt like there was no edge for me there. But I like Ethereum compliant chains and L2s and everything. And so I started poking around on Base to see, there's actually a lot more latent capital locked on Ethereum, just as a virtue of it being an older token and having a high market cap. And so I was like, if the AI trade gets hot on Base, if there are first movers or things that are going to have an advantage, the ceiling seems extremely high if you can catch it. And so I started looking around. Some buddies talked about virtuals and their rebrand from, I think it was PathDAO. So I started looking at that and found Vader. I knew him previously through a couple of different group chats and found out that he was launching an agent on virtuals. I was like, sweet, this is like pump fund, but for AI agents. Why would it not take off at some point if Ethereum-based chains get an AI bid? And that led to hitting a massive trade on Vader, found AIXBT a couple hours later that same night and got in at 90K. Which is pretty insane to think that it then ran to 950 million, like less than 2 months later. So it was a lot of it was just what I'm comfortable with, which is Ethereum and Ethereum-based chains, and kind of knowing that the narrative, at least for the entire fourth quarter of 2024, was AI, and seeing where there might be untapped or uncrowded trades in those areas.
So what's now? If we think overall top-down ETH might outperform here, and we're saying ETH beta hasn't really moved. You can buy the obvious ones are the meme coins. What is the stuff that you think could be that? Are we going to see are we going to see internet capital markets on Base or something like this? And you're like, oh, I'm already there, already all over it. Is Rekt that coin?
I think the AI trade's not done. And I mean, I know that Rekt has some AI elements to it these days. Obviously virtuals, the entire ecosystem, the Genesis launches are popping off. The one this morning was 100x for everybody that got in. which is frankly insane. And I don't even think it's done yet. It opened at like 18 million market cap. So you've got that. There's some other interesting.
Explain that a little bit to everyone. What's
Yeah.
happening with virtuals right now? Because I think
So virtuals originally they had just this you launch your agent, and there was a lot of crap. And then they were like, oh, let's do pump fund, but AI agents. And that was really cool for like 4 weeks. And then all of the Solana Trench ruggers came over and started launching rug agents constantly. And everybody got tired of that. And then virtuals kind of went quiet for a few months when the entire market drew down 70%, except for Bitcoin. And they very recently acquired the technology that Vader developed. So while this is all happening, he'd been developing his own tech to do these agent offerings, which are essentially, if you like strip away all the bells and whistles, they're really just ICOs, but under the guise of an AI agent token. And they worked really well. There were, I think, 3 of those launches, and you had to stake the Vader token to get access. So similar to whitelisting addresses for ICOs, based on how much you stake. So some skin in the game instead of just being the first to beat somebody to a pump fund launch. Those are extremely successful. And Virtual saw it and said, hey, why don't we do that for our own agents? So they acquired the tech in a partnership with Vader, and now they launch what are called Genesis agent launches. And basically there's a 24-hour period where you can commit points and virtuals token to an upcoming launch. And like how many points you contribute compared to how many points are contributed overall determines how many tokens you're allowed to actually commit to the agent launch. And you end up getting these tokens effectively I think like a 300K market cap. So then if you see something like Axelrod this morning, it had 7,000 participants. It was oversubbed by like 15x, but it opened at 18 million. So you've got this massive, massive upside for people that got in on this launch. It's 22 mil now. So it's if it opened the IDO was 200K, that's over 100x in like 3 hours. And so the catch here is that points are really hard to get, and you get those by either staking virtuals, holding agent tokens, trading new agent tokens. They call it trenching points. And they integrated with Kaito this week, actually. And there's like a mindshare board, and every day they're giving out points to the people on this mindshare board. And so the points are how you really get access. Like obviously you have to contribute virtual tokens, but you burn your points in order to get access. So it's a pretty cool flywheel. It incentivizes holding tokens that you end up winning in these launches, as opposed to like full stack dumping, because you end up in jail. They call it YEET jail, which is, I think, hilarious. If you dump your tokens and you like can't earn points for a week or 10 days or something. So it's kind of like 3-3 on steroids, but with consequences instead of like hard locking.
But does anyone want to own the agent, or is it just like a really good flywheel?
There's some that actually I think are pretty valuable. I mean, a lot of these things are going to be similar to your typical meme coins, where it's, hey, I want to hold it as long as the price is going up. But there's some like Basis OS is like it like does basis trading for you automatically in the background, and so you have to have tokens to access the bot. You can also deposit stable coins for it to generate yield for you. There's a few different arbitrage bots. They'll arbitrage things on prediction markets or other places automatically for you. I'm a big fan of the Trust token. It's by a guy that I got to know pretty well through last season, but it has an automated trading bot associated with it. If you hold on to it, that'll automated trade for you on Hyperliquid. So you're farming season 2 points in the background, as well as he's been pretty publicly successful as a perp trader over the years.
All these bots, can you just walk it back 1 sec? Are these things actually like making profits for people? Like you always hear these things, like these AI agents that trade or farm yield and whatnot. Like I never really dig into them because I'm like, oh, that's stupid. That's not going to work. Something publicly available like this is never going to be successful.
I tend to be cynical about that as well, and I haven't looked at the like as of today numbers. But my understanding is that at least when the market isn't aggressively chopping back and forth, the signals from Trust are pretty good. I do think that the Basis OS agent is profitable as far as yield on deposited stables. There's a number. I haven't posted any of this on Twitter, but I think there's a number of guys that are documenting how their deposits are going on the Basis OS agent. So some of them definitely vapor. some of them do seem to have at least arguable utility at this stage.
Yeah. Then I guess you just wonder about the scalability too, but
yeah, and that's where the
enough.
incentives from getting points for like holding and using these things also kind of helps, because it's an added value that gets kind of poured into the cycle.
Nice. Are there any other like unique ones on there? Sorry, I cut you off.
Was the one today that launched Axelrod. AIXVC is an agent that launched a long time back, like early in Genesis Virtuals, like 5 or 6 months ago. And it's kind of thing, it's similar to AXBT in some ways, but it like sources alpha and gives you trading signals and that sort of thing. But my understanding is Axelrod is supposed to be like a play off of the main character from Billions. But he's basically a fund manager for you. So he's supposed to do something similar to this, where he makes good trades. Allegedly, we'll find out if they actually end up being good trades or not. And I think that some of these, like the trust token has this like underlying DAO that basically the dev is allowing you to like get extra points through. So you get extra access to these low value tokens before they launch. So there's some things there. I don't actually know what the next like upcoming hot agents are, but there's a few Twitter accounts that I follow that do reviews for most of these things. That's the cool part about having a Kaito integration, is that people are incentivized to make quality content about what's coming up. So it makes getting information actually pretty easy, because people are obviously self-interested in wanting to get points, but they also know that if it's not quality, they're not going to get views and they're not going to get reposts or comments. So it's kind of a rising tide lifts all boats situation. Degen Ape Trader's good about it. Nick Plays Crypto is really good. 100x Darren is a great source. Vader is very well respected in the circle. So there's a lot of good content creators. I mean, there's also a bunch of really like micro creators that are kind of trying to build out their niche there as well.
Could you explain Kaito, the opportunity there as well, other than just like being a content creator? Do you think that's going to be a big one? We may be working with them soon with YEET.
Yeah, man, I think Kaito is one of the killer products for this cycle. I think that they've done it. There's some like pitfalls to decentralizing or democratizing marketing, in that everybody wants to jump in and start doing it. So you get like a lot of low effort or copy pasta or slot postings. People want to like figure out how to get the maximum rewards doing the least amount of effort, and they harness GPTs and all of that to kind of spew out content. But overall, I think it's really good for making the marketing system in crypto culture more transparent, because when there's public incentives for placing high on leaderboards or creating quality content, it becomes much easier to see what people actually care about, what they maybe don't care about as much but are interested in producing content for because there are incentives. And it's a lot more transparent than like closed door, behind the scenes KOL marketing in countries or jurisdictions where there are no disclosure laws. I think that's good. I think ultimately more transparency is a really good thing in the space.
Do you think with Kaito, obviously for Kaito, their upside is more and more clients, if you like, who want to pay to have content created about them? Do you think if that number grows, and I guess if that number outpaces the growth in content creators, is there a risk that you kind of just get caught in, you get diluted, I guess? Like there's obviously a ton of value for just like one of 3 partners with Kaito, but if you're one of 50, then it's a very different story. Do you think like there's a risk to that, or are there any smart ways they can kind of get around that?
Well, yeah, for partners, I think definitely there can be content fatigue. So if there's too many projects and not enough creators, then you're going to have this issue of creators it's a dual-sided problem. If there are too few creators, or they don't realize the potential risks to themselves in diluting their brand, they'll try to cover everything. And I think that's a huge mistake that a lot of smaller time creators are making. They're just like spam out content about every single protocol that has incentives. I think that's super duper the wrong way to go about it, because then nobody sees you as anything other than a mercenary creator, just like trying to harvest and farm max rewards. I tell people that ask me, I'm like, don't even consider trying to make content for more than like 3 to 5 projects, because nobody believes you actually are interested in more than that at one time. And like, it's not really feasible to produce quality stuff on a significant number of protocols that are brand, especially because most of these things are like pre-token and like may not even be out of testnet yet. So you can't love this protocol that's existed for like 17 days and has 17 users. Like that just doesn't exist. So it's disingenuous. I think it hurts your long-term brand value. As far as on the brand side, I think that, I mean, I think it's different depending on if you're a new protocol trying to grow your audience, or develop like a core loyal user base versus a protocol that's been around for a long time that's trying to overcome like past marketing debt or PR issues. Like I think Polkadot's a great example of this. They've got some skeletons in the closet from past marketing agencies that engaged some less than pristine reputation influencers and burned a lot of money doing that. And I think they kind of became a whipping boy for crypto Twitter for that sort of reason. But they had this idea, hey, let's do a marketing bounty on Kaito where we reward people on this mindshare board each month based on talking about what's going on Polkadot. And so everybody knows that there's incentives as opposed to it being these like backroom 6-figure deals to these large KOLs that just spam out paid promotion all the time. And I think that you can check even like on Google Trends, the mentions of Polkadot are actually like pretty organically growing. It's not like a massive spike or like this one-time flash ban. It's like month over month. It does seem like there's increased discussion, and on the timeline you can see more discussion about the tech. I think they still have some user experience, like UI UX issues because it's like messy and complicated to use Polkadot, just based on how the architecture was designed. But there's incentive for people to figure out like user-friendly ways to explain that because now they can get rewarded for it.
Would you
just quickly
yeah.
Let's talk about the drinks code. The code for YEET today, which is drinks. OSF nearly went for it again. So go to rafflebot.xyz, use code drinks, and you will be chosen for next week's YEET giveaway. So we've already got the winners for this week. Come on the show a bit later, but use code drinks. We're going to bring up 3 people again.
The question I had, and I definitely value your opinion, IcoBeast, because I've sort of been following you since the Blast stuff. I think you've had a good call on things. The question I have, which is probably the same question that Mando and KBM have, is that obviously these guys have YEET and we have Rekt drinks. For us and like our brands, do you think Kaito is something that's like worth it with our existing communities, or do you think it's not worth it? Like, what would your take be on that?
Man, it's hard to know the answer to that without going through the dollars and cents calculations from a marketing budget. Like, how much is there to spend? What KPIs are you looking for? So for me, it's hard to give a discrete, yes or no. I think the things that I would consider is what is the goal? I've got an article that I'm working on. I haven't published it yet. But the article is kind of on how do you approach mindshare marketing as a marketer in crypto. And a lot of it really revolves on deeply understanding what your goal is on the marketing campaign. And I think that the 2 major outcomes you can get from a Kaito board is either broad distribution or a super hardcore interested small loyal user base. And I think that my observation is the Rekt brands have a very loyal user base. And so from an outsider perspective, distribution may be what is being sought. And so depending on what your end goal is, that kind of determines what your strategy is. So it's do we want to reward the top 1,000 people on our mindshare with the same level of rewards, or do we want to like really get this super dedicated group? And so we reward a smaller portion of people with larger rewards. I think there's also a lot of like manual tweaking that needs to happen on these mindshare boards because you want to filter out bots, you want to filter out people that somehow evade the LLM detector algorithms they have. You probably don't want to reward somebody with 17 smart followers and 100 total followers that spams out Rekt content 24/7 and so has a large quote unquote mindshare, but in reality they have no actual audience. And so there's something like it's not a perfect system, and it's getting better every day, but it's not perfect. There's a level of manual review and intervention that's also required in certain cases. So those are other like manual labor costs that you have to consider as part of a marketing campaign.
Yeah, fair enough. That's helpful to know.
So basically what we're saying is Kaito is an opportunity, but you kind of need to be diligent about what you're doing there. It's probably a bit more difficult than it was in the past. Then it feels like virtuals is still your biggest call here. Am I wrong in saying you think ETH and it'll be AI that will win? Is there any other AI ETH plays that you really like?
Not necessarily. Well, I guess this is kind of an AI. I think the DeFi decentralized finance AI stuff. I think there are some, there are going to be winners there. I don't know if it's going to be Prompt and Wayfinder. I don't know if it's going to be Hayanon. I mean, I think those are all pretty interesting tokens. There's one that I don't see get a ton of love online. I've got some friends that really like it. I don't actually have a position in it. I probably should, but BankerBot. So it was developed by some guys on Farcast, OX Deployer. He's got a pretty long history of developing different projects over the years. I didn't use it early on, mostly because it required messaging on Twitter in order to use it. And I didn't really want to spam my feed with these, hey, BankerBot, do this. Most because I just didn't care for that. But there's a terminal now that works, and they're doing cross-chain. They've had some interactions with some high-profile people online. It's got a token deployer mixed with it. But I think in particular with kind of this question mark around what exactly is going on with Clanker, with one of the devs having some controversy around him, I think there's a possibility for it to kind of take the place as the big DeFi coin for Base right now. So that's something to look at. There's also KTA on Base, which it's a confusing one because it's technically a coin for its own chain that's like upcoming, but it launched on Base, so it's an L2 coin. And so I'm not exactly sure how the tokenomics play out there, but Coin Guru has been a big champion of that. I also don't have a position in this one because I saw it at like 5 million and faded it, and then it like rocketed to 200 million, and I refuse out of principle to buy something that I missed that badly. But so there's possibly something interesting there as a potential future L1 trade. But yeah, virtuals, I think just because it's pretty easy to access as far as like talking about it, making some content, get some points from Kaito, or buy a Genesis launch and get some points and then like get access to a pretty cool launchpad deal pretty quickly. I think it's accessible, and the guys are shipping pretty fast these days. So I'm a big fan of the virtuals ecosystem.
Anything else, ICO? Anything else that you think we should all be early to? Are you farming any of like the other new big L1s that are coming out? Do you go to like Bearer Chain or any of these like more the other ones with like high rewards and stuff like that? You ever done any of that?
I think that people are sleeping on Abstract, to be totally honest. I don't know if the chain economics make sense to me. I don't know all their financials. I don't know the raise background. I don't know any of that stuff. And I still do think that they're going to have to overcome this view that they're the pudgy chain. At least in crypto Twitter, the culture, I think people still see it as the pudgy chain, which comes with, like, there's nothing wrong with that, but it does come with this risk of people feeling like second-class citizens if they are not pudgy holders. So there's probably some marketing magic that has to happen there to kind of get away from that eventually. But I don't think that people are utilizing it as well as they could. There's pretty easy plays regularly, especially on meme coins there, or NFTs that are like slam dunk mints that are extremely profitable, especially if you've got a low bankroll, to get quick 5-10x multiples and kind of compound your bankroll pretty quickly.
So meme coins and Abstract, I've been hearing more and more about this, that maybe this is what people are doing at the moment. Is there anything else on there? Is it just meme coins?
Well, so there's definitely meme coins like the Abstract Cat or Dith's Cat. He's the product lead for Gigaverse. He like adopted some one-eyed cat last weekend, and somebody launched a token for it almost right after he posted it. It's called Cyclops. And people were talking about it on the timeline at like, chart does not look great. They were talking about it at like 5, 10, 15K. And so a lot of people got a decent chunk of tokens, super, super, super low before it migrated. And then they maybe ran up to $1 million. So it's not bad. There's like, I think it's Newt and Abster both have run from like pre-moonshot bonding coins all the way up to the 20 mil range at one point. Those have been popular. There's like a lot of penguin related memes on Abstract for obvious reasons. So I'm not sure if I'm a believer in continuing to play penguin meme coins just because I think you want to look for something interesting and unique as opposed to more of the same. But so there's definitely something there. But NFT projects like On-Chain Heroes or Monsters.fun, those have been, at least On-Chain Heroes is extremely profitable. It was a super cheap mint.
So
the
what is
rings
that? What is On-Chain Heroes again? Like,
It's like an idle game and like an idle clicker game. It's the original dev from Wolf Game, I believe is what Scarlett was originally working on way back in the day. But he built out this new pixel art semi-idle game where you have your little warriors, your heroes, and they fight bad guys, generate tokens over time. And as part of season 1, you could earn these gacha tokens that now can be used to get weapons. And so in season 2, I don't know when it's supposed to launch. I think the joke is that there is no season 2, but there definitely is. But you're able to outfit your heroes with these weapons that you earned through playing season 1. And there's there's boss battles somehow in season 2. People seem to like it. The pixel art's fun. So that's there. You've got Monsters.fun, which is some kind of AI monster creator battler. The mint is next week, and we don't know a ton of details beyond that. You got Gigaverse. The ROMs from that, the NFTs are much higher than the mint was months ago, but it's like a much more complex version of rock, paper, scissors with gear and upgrades and dungeon runs. So that's a game there. So there's a number of like interesting. The other one on Abstract I think is really unique is Multiplier. So it's kind of like Crash, or some other kind of gamble gotcha game, but the way that the flywheel is designed is to be like an extra liquidity flywheel for meme coins. So you can gamble, and the fees go back to purchasing the token. Winnings go into purchasing the token that you're playing on. And so it's set up to help like basically moonshot tokens or multiply them. It's kind of interesting. So that it's a unique take on GambleFi, I think. It's rather than just like flipping coins. It's designed to help the meme ecosystem on a chain. And I think that it runs on more than just Abstract. They went through a few pivots. They were originally a casino-fi thing on Arbitrum, and they tried to find PMF on Blast, and now they seem to have solidified a use case here on Abstract.
Right. Nice. Okay. So it feels like Abstract is, I think Abstract, I kind of agree with you. It's because it got so much FUD at the start. I think it's now become like a more interesting play, hasn't it?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I think that's part of what your job is when you're looking for uncrowded trades, is figure out narratives where people aren't yet, or where they like looked originally and were dissatisfied, but the dissatisfaction is more because of personally generated expectations rather than protocol generated expectations. I think that's the case. Abstract was very upfront about, hey, like this is going to be a labor of love. We're going to build it out over time. This isn't about like hype. We're building like what we think is actually a consumer crypto portal. And I think that over time I think it started in February or late January, there's been a ton of opportunity. I think that I bridged over like 2 ETH, and I've 10 or 15x my capital just off of like pretty passive plays there in the last 3 months.
I think with the other thing with Abstract is people, I feel like, have a lot of PTSD from Blast as well. Like there were tons of people farming Blast, right? And then didn't work out, maybe depending on who you were, didn't work out that well or up to your expectations. So I think people are like, I just can't be bothered to go through that again on Abstract. So they're kind of like naturally fading it.
I think you're totally right. I mean, the other side of it is it's not really a whale farming game. So Blast was like pretty heavily incentivizing volume or like heavy pocketed players to park capital in DeFi protocols and that sort of thing. There's not really much, if any, DeFi going on Abstract, and it doesn't seem like their goal is to capture whales with gigantic stacks of capital to just like park on the protocol. So for some of those power users of Blast, there really isn't even anything for them to go park their assets in.
Yeah, I think it's smart. Like, I actually think the streaming thing on Abstract is super, super smart. And when we had our drink and we kind of like went through this marketing roadshow thing, I guess on Abstract, it was great because we could be like, okay, let's go on all these Abstract streams where all these streamers want to have us because they're obviously trying to get their views up to gain more XP, and everyone's watching for the same reason. Like, it's a pretty smart mechanism, I think, that is unique to Abstract. You haven't really seen it anywhere else. And I think if you're building a project or you're trying to launch something, doing it on Abstract should be like a no-brainer to you, because like for the number of users they have, the engagement levels are just like super, super crazy. And it was honestly like nothing I've ever really seen before. It's pretty crazy, I think. So I can see like if I was Luca, and I'm sure this is what these guys are thinking, I bet you these streamers will get paid a ton. They'll make a ton on this abstract airdrop, and then they're going to get a huge influx of people trying to stream, and therefore people trying to view, and you'll get bigger names, all that kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. And then it suddenly starts to look like super interesting. But again, like that's one thing that's super unique, I think, to abstract, and nothing else really has it. And it's not that easy to replicate. I guess you can, but it's obvious that you're a second mover now if you try and replicate it.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that the portal's pretty easy to use. It works well on mobile, so I think they've alleviated some of the pain points for less traditional crypto people to access crypto-enabled apps.
Yeah, definitely. You have any views on if like the whole like AI agent sector can make a comeback or not? Like I know we've been creeping up a bit higher on the total market cap and all the coins are off the lows, but do you think we'll see a repeat of what we had in December, January time? Or is that space kind of like cooked a little bit? Any thoughts on that?
It's a hard one. I mean, I don't know if, I don't know. You look at virtuals and you see that they've already kind of pumped back up towards the 2 billion FDV area. I think capped out around 5 or 5.5 at peak mania back in December or January. You see a lot of big movers on the Solana side of things too. Some tokens making comebacks. I tend to think that as long as the market doesn't crap itself and like you see Bitcoin stay above 100K for some sustained amount of time, or at least doesn't dip below kind of the more recent range bound, that you'll start to see these beta plays pop off, because I mean ultimately alt season is people just trying to outperform Bitcoin. And so if you get it in a high wealth range and you get it relatively stable, then people go farther out on the risk curve. And AI for better or worse, I think is interesting to a broad range of people. And it's also easier to believe in something when it's AI related, which belief is kind of one of those things that's required to actually kick off crazy all rallies, is people believing that it really can do something special, as opposed to the coins that nobody else believes in anymore. So that's a super equivocal answer that I don't think AI is cooked, but I think it does depend on the market remaining hot in order to keep running.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So what's your when you think about positions you own, how do you like think about your risk? Are you kind of like, okay, this is a good 10x, let me play this trade and then get out of it? Or do you have stuff where it's like, okay, I'm going to hold these positions over a longer period of time and my goal is to like outperform Bitcoin or outperform, I don't know, like outperform Sol, or do you like rotate profits into Bitcoin or rotate profits into other things? Do you often hold a lot of stables? Like, how do you just think like, holistically? How do you think about your overall risk management, I guess?
I've historically been extremely bad at this. But I will say that the 2024 was mostly vibes-based trading and rotations of capital based on what kind of felt right. That had some success and some failure. I'd say these days I'm mostly rotating wins into stables and Bitcoin. I've got plenty of ETH exposure. I've got pretty good alt L1 exposure. And so if we do end up getting a glorious alt season, it'll be a great time for me. At the same time, I do think that Bitcoin has established itself as a very clear long run winner. And so I think that having solid exposure there is really prudent for a longer time horizon. And then stables is one of those things. Up until really mid 2024, I didn't touch stables very much. And I think that was a big downfall for me in prior cycles, not really consciously stabling profits. I don't think I pulled any money out of the system until like paying for taxes this year in 7 years, which is nuts. Because either my gains weren't significant enough to really merit needing to pull anything out, or because I was able to just cash straight out from Ethereum or whatever. But I think that it's prudent, at least at this stage of the game for me, to be rotating profits into stables from time to time, even though I'm a believer that by 2030 we see ETH at 10K. Like I'm a moon boy in that sense, but I don't think that the odds of that outweigh the current value of stabling some at different levels. So like I actually sold ETH to USD for the first time ever last week, or what was it, actually a few days ago, when it crossed 2,500. I was like, you know what, I'm going to sell like 1% of my ETH to stables just because I think it's worth doing that at this stage. Because great, if it keeps going up, I've got tons of exposure still, but if it goes down, I'd rather have some stable profits locked in. And so I think that's kind of the mindset at this stage. I had a really great year in 2024. Started 2025 was awesome. And so thinking long-term about how do I preserve capital now, more so than extremely crazily multiplying it. But I think a lot of that depends on what your bankroll size is and what your long-term goals are.
Yeah, I think this was a
Okay,
fun episode.
This has been an awesome episode. Yeah, about to say we've loved having you on. I think we've got a good idea of what we should be following right now. Less memes, more like diligent stuff. It feels like, and that's why you've been so popular. I think this cycle because you've been early to a lot of really great calls. We're going to do the YEET giveaways. I know you've also spoken about YEET. You're actually you're one of our top affiliates. It seemed like for a stage.
Well, how do you not get wrecked first? We don't want to not give him the question. That would be sacrilege. How do you not get wrecked? IcoBeast.
Man, personally, I never buy something if it's 30x up from where I initially faded it. That is an arbitrary number that I picked a long time ago. That applies to NFTs. It applies to meme coins. It applies to everything really outside of Bitcoin. I will buy Bitcoin more than 30x from where I faded it, but that's the only asset that I'll do that for. So that's one way to do it. And the other way to not get wrecked is don't even think about trading a Sol meme coin unless you are able and willing to spend the next 2 to 12 hours at your computer.
Love it, man. Thanks. Appreciate it. So back to what Mando was saying. Kick it off, Mando. What do we want to do here?
I think we're going to bring 3 people up, right? So we've got Goril Alberto, Dr. Pawnee, and Jax Teller. Should we play Lamb Chop? I think we
should do some Lamb Chop, yeah.
Lamb Chop as a game would be fun. Probably 9. Yeah, we'll bring up one by one. So we'll do 9 500 runs, and see where we end up. One by one in turn. Let's bring up. Actually, we can bring them all up, I guess. Yeah, but bring them all up. It's more fun. So, Gory Alberto, you're starting first. Do you want to share the screen about Lamb Chop? Let's see how far we go.
Yo,
brother. Right. So you know how the game is played. So you basically we'll do 500 a go. We're gonna do 9 spin 300 a go. You basically say when to stop. And we'll say, should we say minimum? You gotta go twice, KBM.
Yeah, let's do 2 jumps min.
Minimum is 2. Let's see where we go. Okay. On easy.
Who's up?
Okay.
Who's up?
It's Gory Alberto.
There, go on.
All right, well, you got to jump twice for him, right?
Yeah, jump twice, and then we'll go from there.
Now you choose cash out or jump.
Jump.
Jump
one more.
Jump one more. Oh, wow.
Okay, cash out.
Cash out.
Cash out.
Nice. Okay.
That's a nice
Oh. All right, next one, 500. Let's go again.
All right, jump twice, and then just say jump or cash out.
Okay. One more.
What?
Let's go.
Shredded.
Okay.
I love the little Pepe frogs. Pepe. There they are.
Okay,
Jump 2.
go twice.
All right.
Go.
Okay. What do you want to do? Bank it?
Go.
Go.
He won $750, right? Is that how much it was?
$50. He wins.
Pretty damn.
Decent start. This is I think it's 2 or 3% house edge game, so you will win the average each person who comes up. But good job, Corey Alberto. We will make sure you get those. Who's it next? Dr. Pawnee next.
Yo, what's good?
Yo, okay. So we'll jump twice, and then you go. I think.
Yeah.
Did OSF leave? He walked off during the show. Now he left early. This guy.
Okay. What do you do from here?
Go one more.
Go one more.
One more.
One more. Oh.
Should I go on one more? KBM, what do you say?
You know what I think? Go to the barn.
Your video's frozen,
Oh,
KBM.
you know what? Go one more.
One more.
Cash out.
Oh. Cash out. Okay. $800. Nice.
Oh, we could have.
Oh
Yeah,
my
who's
goodness.
gonna run to the barn? Who's gonna be the one to run to the barn?
You've already banked $700. So let's see how this goes. Go twice.
Maybe
Let's see
take
what.
some risk.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know what's going on with my video. Yeah, I don't know.
Go one more.
I think it's VPN.
We'll cash out. We'll cash out this.
Cash out there. Okay. All right. Good
Yeah.
run. Good run. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, it's not bad. Not a bad
One
cash
more.
out.
One
Yeah.
more.
Yo, give him. Can you do it on Death Wish?
Oh, well, you died in the
never
first
mind.
jump. But
Never mind.
good
Thank
game.
you,
You won
KBM.
a bunch. Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dr.
Thank
Corey.
you.
Okay, so
So,
Thank you,
FCB.
FCB. Okay, so you get two more spins. Unfortunately got lost at the first go.
Wait, no, that was Corny, wasn't it? Yeah.
No, I think
This guy has 3 left.
Does he? Still has
Yeah,
3.
yeah.
Okay, nice. Okay, cool. All right.
All right.
All right, where are we gonna go? Soa, you there? What do you think? Oh, we can't hear you, Soa.
Oh,
All right, KBM, you want to decide?
sure. Jump.
Jump,
Jump.
jump.
Jump. Jump.
You got to cash him out here.
Jump. He's 3 more. Jump.
Oh my god.
Jump.
Here we go. Here we go.
Wow. You can cash this one, then we can take some risk with the other ones.
Wow. KBM. Oh!
Wow. Whoa.
Wow. Well played.
Soa just in silence, getting fucking all the money from me.
Okay.
Right, next one.
Okay, two
Mando,
again.
You want to do this one? Mando,
Yeah,
you do
okay.
it.
Two again.
No, let IcoBeast do the last one.
Jump
All right.
him.
Jump,
This will be Mando's. Go ahead.
jump, jump, cash out.
Okay.
Oh, this guy's
IcoBeast, you want to fire the last one for him?
Yeah, let's get him some money.
All right, run it.
Jump. Jump.
This feels like a
Jump.
barn run.
Yeah, this feels good. This one feels
Jump.
good. Where are the wolves, man?
They're not
Let's
here
cash
today.
him. Let's cash him. He got $4,000 today.
Wow, you just made this dude, who must be a bot because he's not even on here. He's gonna be fucking rich as shit. Oh, wow.
Oh, by the
big
way,
winner of the day.
that was an amazing run. The guy wins $4,000. Well done.
Wow.
Good clips there, actually. Feels like we should be gambling for them, or at least telling them
Yeah,
what
maybe
to
we
do.
should be jumping for them.
Yeah.
Actually, we should just jump for them from now on.
Yeah,
Me,
you
you,
think?
and no except the guests, like pick
Me, you,
one
and the
each,
guests.
whatever.
Anyway,
Then we'll get some fun.
just something to note. Actually, last week, a couple of bots did like 1,000 entries onto YEET, and we had to shut them down. We shut them down before the prizes came out. So, if you do like multiple entries, because we have lots of fraud and bot protection stuff, we may shut you down. So make sure you're not doing multiple entries. Make sure you are doing one per thing. Hopefully, everyone else wins that way as well. Like, we can't give out prizes when we shut down the account for that sort of stuff. So
You have to pick next week's.
Yeah, we pick next week's.
All right,
You
so
want to
fire
come
that
up?
real quick? Speed up. We're missing a call already, but it's okay.
It's okay. Okay, so this is all the people under the Rekt Radio who are watching. Nice, 57. Picking 3 winners. These are the people that come on next week. Random draw.
Rekt intern. Oh! Miracle Pop Pepe Maxi.
Nice.
What if the intern wins? He can roll. Sam Bate.
And Cheryl McD.
Yeah, Cherry LMC
Cheryl-
guy. D.
I think it's Cheryl, dude.
Earl.
Cheryl.
Yeah, Cherry.
We don't get a lot
Beautiful.
of women in this space. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for sticking around, ICO, and well done for winning that guy as well. Awesome having you on. Would love to have you on maybe towards the end of the cycle too, maybe later in the year. That'd be fun.
Yeah, man. This was great. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
All right,
see you
bro.
soon, and see everyone who watched soon too.